Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. My name is Cory. As always, if you like the content you see here on the channel, consider subscribing. We really do appreciate it. Today's video is a follow-up to my last video, as promised, where it is the opposite of my last video. Whereas my last video was games that I thought I would enjoy, but didn't like, this video are games that I thought I would not like, but I actually do love. So, let's get started. Okay, and coming in at number 5 on my list is the newest game to this list. It is a game that I wasn't super excited to really try. I didn't know much about. I don't know anything about the whole book series or the movies or especially the new movie that's about to come out this year. Knew nothing about the lore behind this game. Some of the mechanisms sounded intriguing where it has some deck building along with playing out cards to then place workers. And I do like worker placement. I do really like deck building, but I wasn't really too sure I was going to like this game. But I ended up really falling in love with it, and this game is Dune Imperium. So like I said, in Dune Imperium, it is kind of that classic style deck building type game where you are purchasing cards to your discard pile to then later shuffle into your deck and draw better and better cards throughout the game as you are upgrading and enhancing your deck. But the unique twist in this game are some of the cards that you're playing will allow you to place workers on the main board to do different actions. And that gelling of the two different mechanisms together like that is what I really enjoy about this game. There is some area control elements, some fighting back and forth over territory, some going out and gathering resources to then turn them in for other points or getting other cards to enhance your deck. And there is a whole lot of little things going on in this game, but they all gel together so well. This game was just designed so well to make it seem like everything you're doing serves a purpose. You're not only upgrading your deck, but you're sending different workers to different locations at opportune moments and trying to block people out from them not being able to do what they're trying to do. And the area control fighting at the end of the round is so cool too, because some of the rounds you really do want to win that fight or win the area majority in that because the bonus is so strong, whereas other times you can kind of pull your troops back and kind of wait, let other people fight over that reward to then maybe wait for that bigger reward in the future and to go after something different. And just this game is all about momentum and choosing the opportune moments to do the best you can with what you have. And it really feels like a sense of progression in this game. You are racing to 10 points. The first person to get to 10 points wins the game, but you're doing it in just so many different ways that it's just so variable and fun every time that I've played it. So this game is Dune Imperium. Alright, and number 4 on my list is a trick-taking cooperative game. Two mechanisms that I don't typically really enjoy very much. Not a huge fan of trick-taking games, not a huge fan of cooperative games, but this game just did it so well. Came out a couple years ago now, and it really took the world by storm, really took the gaming community by storm, but for good reason. And this game is The Crew. The Crew, like in the title of this video, is just a game that I thought would just be the farthest from the style game that I like, but just ended up working so well, and we had so much fun playing it. In The Crew, like I said, it is a trick-taking game, but you are cooperatively trying to complete these different tricks in various ways to complete the mission. There are like 50 different missions in the box, and as you progress from mission 1 to 2 and so on, the missions get harder and harder, and you and your friends are just working cooperatively around the table to try to math out and work out that puzzle to beat the mission each and every time. And with 50 different missions, there's just a whole lot of variability. You can replay previous missions, you can try to skip ahead to future missions, but like I said, as the missions go on, they get more and more difficult. So the better you get at this game, the more you can jump into those more difficult missions, but as you get up there, those missions really do pose a challenge for anybody. From the most experienced trick-taking players to the beginner trick-taking players, you can all cooperatively work together and just play as a team, and that is just so much fun. You don't hardly ever see, I don't think it's ever really been done before, where you take a trick-taking game and try to beat it cooperatively. And it's got a cool theme to it. The crew has a space theme where the missions feel like you are kind of venturing out and trying to do these different missions in different ways. And it really feels like you're kind of alone with your group and trying to figure out that puzzle strategically and cooperatively as a team. So that is The Crew. The number 3 game on my list is a space epic sandbox style game. And the sandbox nature to games hasn't ever really appealed to me. Like, for example, like Western Legends or some of these other bigger games where there's just so many different paths to victory and so many different things you can do. You don't necessarily know what the best thing is to do at whatever time. And for whatever reason, those style games don't really gel very well with me. They don't really fit into my play style or the type of strategy that I like to mull over in my head or that sort of thing. But for whatever reason, this game I had a whole lot of fun with it. And this game is Xia, The Legends of the Drift System. So like I said, in Xia, Legends of a Drift System, you are just going around space, traveling around and just doing whatever you want to do. Upgrading your ship for better speed and better guns, and you're moving around trying to collect these bounties and do these different missions. And if you run into an opposing player, you can choose to fight with them, or you can run away from them and kind of go off and do your own thing, trying to make money or exploring new tiles to unexplored space to see what's out there. And maybe if you're heading down or heading out one way away from the other players, you can kind of go out and do your own thing, and you can still win the game, and that's still a viable strategy to go out and kind of do your own thing and stay away from everybody. Or if you're kind of feeling like you want kind of that more in-your-face style gameplay, you can actually go and chase after that player that's trying to stay away from you, so you can kind of track them down and hunt them down and destroy their ships for points too. And just a big space style game with a lot of like American style mechanisms that I don't tend to really enjoy. It's got some Euro elements too. I tend to gravitate more toward like the Euro strategies in games, but this is definitely a hybrid and has both. I would say it's got a little bit more American style with the randomness and the rolling of dice and just kind of the way the entire game was designed to be in the more sandboxy nature. And like I said, for whatever reason, I typically don't gravitate towards that style of game, but this game just really, really was a lot of fun to play, and I'm looking forward to getting it to the table again, hopefully sometime soon. And it was just so much fun to kind of do your own thing, but in a way it felt like, like I said, in other sandbox style games, it was just, a lot of them almost seemed too open and seemed like you can't really find the best strategy. But in this game, I kind of felt like anything you were doing, it was good enough to lead you to victory. You didn't necessarily have to do a bunch of different things to win. You could kind of go off and do your own thing, and it was still, whatever strategy you decided to do was still a viable strategy. And I think that's what I liked so much about Xia. So anyway, if this is a game that didn't sound like too appealing to you based on it being kind of more American style and randomness and luck and rolling dice and kind of more of a space style game, kind of in the general sense that you typically think of 4X space games, definitely reconsider this game and give it a shot, because it is quite a bit different than any other space epic game that I've played before. So that is Xia, The Legends of a Drift System. All right, my number 2 game is in the Tiny Epic line of games, and Tiny and Epic, it sounds kind of neat on the surface, but the whole system never really appealed to me. It never really got me going or, got me excited about it. Like, yeah, it's a ton of game in a small box, and you can take it traveling, and you can take it in your backpack or in your pocket or wherever you go, and you've got a ton of game in a small package. Just didn't sound too appealing to me. Like, if I'm going to play like a big game, might as well make it a big box game and just come with normal sized pieces. So that's what really kind of turned me off to the whole system when I first heard about it. But since then, one of my brothers has been buying a bunch of the Tiny Epic games, buying them all up and trying all the various ones. And now I've tried a few, and I've really enjoyed most of them that I've tried. The one I'm going to choose for this list is Tiny Epic Kingdoms, which I believe was the first in the Tiny Epic lineup of games. But in Tiny Epic Kingdoms, it's got kind of another 4X style feel to it, where you're kind of exploring out and you're exploiting some land, gathering some resources, building up a tech tree of technologies. There are a bunch of different races that you can choose from, and each race is completely asymmetrical with their different win conditions. And Yeah, you've got a box full of cards that you're laying out on the table to have different territories, and it makes this map of territories. Like I said, you have your own asymmetrical race in front of you that does very unique special abilities and powers, and with its own unique tech tree. And you're trying to tech up on that. You're trying to take over territories in kind of an area control sense, taking over these different regions to gain points. And basically, it's got a few different win conditions to it. And if you can meet one of your win conditions before your opponents, then you win the game. So it's kind of a race to do, one of 3 different win conditions in a typical game, but each time that you play, you can just randomly choose a new race, randomly choose different territory cards to make out a randomized map every time. The different technologies and things that you're doing are just so different every time that there's a lot of variability. Had a lot of fun every time I've played it. The main central mechanism to this game on the main board, the way you do your actions was really fun also, where you've got this common board that's shared, kind of a communal board that's shared between all the players, and you've got these tokens on the side of it. And when it's your turn, you can choose to take a token and put it on top of any one of the actions that you choose to do, whether it be moving or combat or teching up or doing really one of many different things. And all your opponents around the table, after you choose to do that action and after you carry out that action, they get the option to then follow you in doing that same action. The catch is if they choose not to follow you with doing that action, they can instead choose to gather resources wherever their meeples are on the map. So it's kind of fun to try to pick and choose maybe an action that will really benefit you that your opponents really don't need at that exact moment. You can kind of look at their other player boards and see if they don't have enough resources to build a structure at that moment. So you can maybe say, well, I do, so I'm going to build that structure now, knowing that they can't do what they need to do. So they might have to take option B, where they're just gathering up resources for their future turn. But now that build structures action was taken by me, now they can't take that action any longer. So that action is now blocked. They did gather resources. Now they have enough. They mustered up enough to finally build a structure on their territories, for example. But now they can't because I completely blocked that out for the entire round. So they might have to choose, moving their troops. And I just go, well, I already had enough resources to build my structure. I blocked that from them, so I got to build my tower out there. And now they're choosing movement. Well, I still have leftover resources here that I don't necessarily need to spend at the moment. I'm going to follow that main action and move my troops around too. So it's kind of that fun trying to pick and choose what actions you're going to do when, and trying to pick the actions that'll mainly benefit you and not really benefit your opponents. And sometimes obviously you have to pick actions that they're going to benefit from following as well. But some of the time you can kind of block them out of taking that optimal move, which is a whole lot of fun. So the Tiny Epic line of games has just really been a really big surprise to me so far. Tiny Epic Galaxies was a lot of fun. Tiny Epic Kingdoms, obviously on this list, was my favorite out of all of them. I played Tiny Epic Defenders, that was a fun cooperative version, and also Tiny Epic Pirates, which is the newest on the line, and that was fun too. All of them have been really fun, some more fun than others. Tiny Epic Kingdoms is what I'm choosing for this list because that was the one that surprised me the most and the one that I've had the most fun with. But really, if you have been kind of shying away from the Tiny Epic line of games because that whole premise just doesn't really get you excited, I would give it another chance. I would give it another look and give them a shot for yourself. I would probably start with, if you like the tech tree and teching up and area control aspects to a game and kind of more Euro mechanisms, I would definitely give the Tiny Epic Kingdoms game a shot. If you're looking for a cooperative, Tiny Epic Defenders was a lot of fun. Tiny Epic Galaxies is probably the lightest out of all of them, and a nice light dice roller. That's probably been the biggest hit out of all the Tiny Epic games for everybody who talks about them. But there's something for everyone in the Tiny Epic line of games that find the one that kind of suits you. Do some research on them that kind of suits what you're looking for specifically. Maybe one or two of them, because they are fairly cheap to buy. And I think they would surprise you as well, just as they had surprised me. So that is Tiny Epic Kingdoms. All right, and the biggest surprise on my list, my number one game, was a game that I shied away from for years and years and years. And it just... I'd heard other kind of brother-like games to it being better from multiple sources, and just for whatever reason, this game that's on my list here was just one that never really appealed to me. I mean, I always thought the theme was cool, but just for whatever reason, watching some videos on it, or reading reviews on it, or watching how it's explained and how you play the game, just by watching the gameplay, just didn't seem fun at all. But when we finally got it to the table, Ryan from Talking Cardboard owns this game. When he finally brought it over and we got it to the table, and we've gotten it to the table multiple times since then, trust me, it just really hit well with me and was the biggest surprise hit for me over the last however many years that I've been getting surprised by some of these games, and that game is Cyclades. In Cyclades, it's kind of like an army mustering up movement, area control, area majority style game where you're trying to build up two different metropolises on the board, and the first person to do that wins the game. That's all fine and good if you like area control games. If you like getting troops together and getting like big ships together out in the oceans and sending them off to try to do some area control in different areas, then I think this game would be a lot of fun for you. But what actually really jumped this game up to number 1 on this list for me is the main action selection board. You have different gods that do different actions for you, and the way that you are allowed to do an action on that board is by outbidding your opponents. So the bidding mechanism in this game is just so much fun. I've just had a blast playing with this mechanism every single time, where, like I said, there are different gods that do different actions for you, whether it be get more land troops or get more water troops or move your troops along. Just a bunch of different options for you to choose from. But you are trying to outbid your opponents to try to be the highest bidder on whatever action you would like to do. But you have a set amount of coins behind your player screen that is hidden from all the other players, and you can only spend up to as many coins as you have behind that screen. So sometimes you are taking turns where you're just trying to take control of the cornucopias around the map, because that'll gather you more coins at the beginning of every round. So sometimes you're doing that to try to get more coins, but other times you have plenty enough coins behind that screen, again, that your opponents don't know how many you have, where you can just go out and bid higher and higher amounts to really get that optimal action that you need. The other twist to that, the whole auction mechanism that I really, really enjoy, is that if you outbid somebody, the person who you outbid can't go and re-outbid you on that same action. They are forced to go to a different action to either outbid somebody or to a new action that nobody has bid on yet. So you can't just keep swapping places with the person that you outbid every single time. If they get outbid, they actually have to go to a different spot first. If they get outbid on that other spot they go to, they get their token back. Well, now they can go and outbid you on that previous spot, but not until they get bumped from a different location. And I just think that whole bidding mechanism and the way it works and trying to, build up enough coins during certain rounds in order to outbid your opponents on actions you really need, and forcing them to take suboptimal actions because you outbid them, and then other turns you're just trying to kind of vie for control over these different cornucopia spots to try to gather as much passive income as you can each round to then take a bigger turn later, is just so much fun. And like I said, it was a huge surprise to me. I'm very disappointed that I didn't seek out this game many years ago, because I think I would have loved it back then as much as I do now. I'm glad that Ryan pushed us to get that game to the table. We've played it with one of the expansions and that sort of thing too, but the expansion really isn't necessary. It's fun just with the base game. So if the area control, getting troops, moving them around, trying to vie for different locations and like different cornucopia spots to get coins, and then outbidding your opponents on different actions sounds interesting to you, then definitely give it a shot. This game, it sounds like there's a lot going on, and really it's pretty basic, and it isn't very complicated to play, but the strategy can get pretty complex with what you're thinking of doing inside your head and trying to see how it works out on the board, not only on the main board, but on the action selection board as well. So that is what I like the most about Cyclades, and that is my biggest surprise game on this list. All right, everybody, well, that does it for today's list. My top 5 games that I thought I wouldn't enjoy, but I actually do love after giving them a shot and getting them played. All great games for different reasons. I would highly recommend any one of these 5 games to, if any of these sound interesting to you. I think all 5 were different enough to where they are completely separate from one another, but I think all 5 of them have something unique and something really fun to offer. And if any one of these games on this list was a game that you've kind of overlooked and didn't sound interesting to you just by, reading the back of the box or doing some research on it or seeing maybe it played out, I would suggest giving them another shot and actually seeking them out and giving it a try in person, because these, like I said in the beginning, these 5 games really surprised the heck out of me and are actually games that I really love playing now that I've finally gotten them to the table and given them a chance, and the chance that they deserve. I definitely like seeing down below in the comments all the different games that people have been playing lately too, that maybe if I haven't tried, that will get me intrigued enough to then try, and hopefully I'll enjoy those too. So until next time, you all have fun gaming.